She dressed his wound quietly, offered him antibiotics, never filled out a form or touched the computer. That's what administration cited when they suspended her. No one asked about her reasons, just what rules she broke. A nurse who trusted her gut over hospital policy for a man long overlooked by the system. She didn't defend herself. She didn't explain. She just handed in her badge and left. 3 hours later, the elevator doors opened in the hospital's main entrance. A 4-star general stepped out. He wasn't confused. He knew exactly who he'd come to see. Claire Morgan, age 36, had been at Riverside General for nearly 11 years, reliable, respected, known for treating everyone with the same dignity, whether they wore designer suits or hadn't showered in days. That Wednesday, a man came limping into the emergency room. Gaunt, sun-scorched, and hollow-eyed, his pain clearly older than the injury. His ID read, Walter Briggs. A dog tag clinked softly on his keychain. His jeans were torn, his leg badly cut and infected. No insurance, the front desk muttered. Under their breath, Claire overheard and replied, "He still needs treatment. We can't admit him." "He's not in the database," said the charge nurse coolly. "I'll treat him off record," Claire said without pause. She grabbed a medical kit, guided him to a quiet spot, and cleaned the wound herself. She wrapped it with care, slipped him antibiotics, gave him a granola bar from her own lunch. "I don't want to trouble anyone," the man said quietly. Claire met his gaze. "You gave this country your service. Let someone return the favor." He didn't shed tears, but his expression was that of a man who'd lived through too much. "Thanks," he whispered. "You were never here," Claire murmured. "But you're not walking out of here like that." The following morning she was summoned. "You went around protocol," said the director. "Unapproved meds. Unrecorded patient interaction. I treated someone who wore the uniform of this country." Claire replied calmly. "You're suspended until further review. No discussion, no hearing, just silence and finality in the administrative wing." She packed her locker without a word. 11 years in a box. The afternoon sun was bright and merciless as she sat in her car, took a breath, and whispered to herself, "I'd still make the same call." Walter's words echoed in her mind. "Thank you, ma'am." The streets she drove through felt unfamiliar now. At home, she stacked her old nursing manuals on the dining table. Page after page of procedures, but none had prepared her for this kind of decision. She made a cup of tea. It sat untouched. By evening, whispers turned into noise. A colleague. Posted online. Nurse punished for helping uninsured veteran. The internet took it from there. Comments flooded in. Rules over humanity. Shameful. She's what a real nurse looks like. My father was ignored after Vietnam. This woman's a blessing. If he was a businessman with a platinum plan, they'd roll out of bed for him. The hospital stayed silent. No press statement. No clarification. Claire sat on her porch, phone lighting up every few seconds. Messages came from strangers, from former patients, from soldiers. One message stood out. "He told me what happened. You don't know me, but I know him. I'm on my way." No name. No contact info. Inside the hospital, the administrator remained unmoved. "She went against established process," said Richard Hale. "We can't afford to normalize that." But at 8:14 the next morning, the rules were put to the test. A general walked through the front doors, silver stars glinting under the fluorescent lights. The security guards straightened. "May I help you, sir? I'm looking for Nurse Claire Morgan." The message traveled fast. Eyes peeked from hallways. Phones began recording. Hale rushed down, flushed and flustered. "General, if I may ask, what is the nature of your visit?" "I'm here to make a formal statement." By sundown, Claire's suspension had become a headline. Veteran advocacy groups flooded the hospital's lines. "Did you really deny help to a soldier?" Receptionists fumbled through rehearsed replies. That evening, Claire's neighbor retired teacher showed up with a casserole. "My husband came home from Korea with wounds no one wanted to treat," she said, gently placing the dish down. "Someone like you helped him, No questions asked. Claire's inbox overflowed. Her name climbed trending charts. A journalist kept calling. 2 new employers made offers, and somewhere, someone she didn't know but who knew Walter was still on their way. *** private clinics had already made their position known. We saw what you did at Riverside. That quiet warning shook the hospital to its core. Tension spread like a crack through concrete. Nurses lingered longer in the break room. Charts went unfollowed. The usual rhythm of the hospital slowed. A quiet defiance took hold. One supervisor pinned a tiny flag to her scrubs. Out of compliance, a young doctor left a handwritten note on the lounge bulletin board. Compassion doesn't violate protocol. Administrator Rick Hale called an emergency staff meeting. This isn't about veterans, he insisted, standing before a room of indifferent faces. This is about order, about structure, about the legal frameworks that protect everyone involved. A nurse lifted her hand. Protect us from what, exactly? Empathy. He didn't respond. He wouldn't. That same afternoon, the mug he used every morning vanished from his desk. No one claimed responsibility. That night, Hale sat in his office, the only light coming from his computer screen as he reviewed Claire Morgan's personnel file. 10 years of exemplary service. Glowing reviews. No complaints. Top marks from patients. No red flags. Then his phone rang. The chairman of the board sounded tense. "Rick," he said flatly, "this story's gone public. Veteran organizations are organizing protests. A congressman's office just reached out." "She went against procedure," Hale replied, stiff with anxiety. "She acted without authorization. That's not up for debate." The chairman paused. "Black and white, sure. But sometimes even black and white deserves a second look. Fix this before it turns into a disaster." Hale didn't sleep that night. At dawn, he drafted a statement, measured, official, and carefully detached. It supported the suspension, while suggesting the hospital would re-examine its emergency protocols for uninsured veterans. It satisfied no one, not even him. By mid-morning, his assistant knocked. Her face was pale. "Sir, there's a vehicle out front. Government plates, military insignia. They're asking for Claire Morgan and they asked for you by name." Hale stood slowly, his pulse quickening. "Who is it?" "We're not sure, sir." A soft chime rang out from the elevator. The doors opened, and a general stepped into the hospital lobby. He was tall, composed, and radiated command. "General Thomas Avery," he said, calm but firm. "I served with the man your nurse treated Walter Briggs." The lobby fell silent. "Walter saved my life twice in Kandahar," Avery said. "He never asked for thanks. All he wanted was a little help, a little dignity. Your nurse gave him that. Your hospital didn't." He looked toward the front desk. "From what I've been told, you denied him treatment because he lacked insurance." Silence thickened. "When I was lying in a pool of my own blood, Walter didn't pause to check if I was covered. He didn't fill out a form, he just moved." Avery's voice stayed level, but there was steel in his eyes. "The day we hit that roadside bomb, 3 men were wounded. Briggs didn't wait for orders. No gear, no cover, just instinct, just loyalty." He reached into his coat, pulling out a sealed envelope. "This has already been forwarded to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs." Then, from another pocket, he retrieved a second envelope, "And this one is for Claire Morgan." Hale's mouth tightened. "General, this is highly unorthodox." Avery tilted his head slightly. "So is punishing someone for showing humanity." He turned to a nurse nearby. "Where can I find her?" "She's outside," the nurse whispered, sitting near the curb. Without another word, the general walked out through the ER doors. Claire rose as he approached, uncertain. She stood as the boots came to a stop before her. He offered a formal salute. "Ms. Morgan, correction, Corman Morgan," he said solemnly. "Permission to offer you my thanks." "I'm not military," she replied softly. He gave a small nod. "No, but you remembered what the uniform is supposed to stand for." He handed her the envelope. Inside was an invitation to speak at a national conference on ethical medicine and a job offer from the VA to join their emergency response team as a regional liaison. By now, news crews had arrived. Reporters clustered near the entrance. Phones and cameras pointed in every direction. Claire didn't speak. Her eyes drifted past the general back toward the hospital. "Do you think they'll change?" she asked. "Only if someone like you walks back in," he replied. For a moment, the world held its breath. Behind the glass, hospital staff stood frozen, watching from hallways, from security cameras, from the nurses' station. Inside, Hale remained rooted in place. He no longer looked like a man in charge. Not after everything, not after Avery. This wasn't about forms anymore, or policies, or manuals. This was about values. Somewhere along the way, the system had wandered off course. Its rules had become hollow. Avery turned back to face the hospital lobby one last time. "Walter Briggs," he said clearly, "served 3 tours. There's more shrapnel in his body than iron in some buildings." Walter Briggs never looked for applause. He didn't chase praise or stand in the spotlight. Even when his infection turned serious, he waited 5 days to seek help, not out of stubbornness, but because he'd been taught to endure quietly, to never be a burden. Claire stared at the envelope resting in her lap, bewildered. "I don't get it," she murmured. General Avery's voice softened. "Because this isn't just about you. What happened here, it happens too often. Good people trying to do the right thing, and getting punished for it. Someone had to say, that's enough." Administrator Hale stepped forward. "General Avery, a word in private." The general didn't move. "If there's something to say, say it now." Silence swept through the lobby. Hale's eyes flicked toward the etched glass wall where the hospital's motto, "Healing with Integrity," was etched in proud script. It now seemed hollow. "Nurse Morgan," he said, raising his voice, "your suspension is rescinded." A few hands clapped, tentative and awkward. The moment lacked conviction. "That's not sufficient," Avery said sharply. "Undoing a punishment isn't the same as admitting it was never deserved." Hale's voice tightened. "Then what do you want from me?" "Begin with the truth. Claire didn't fail. The institution did. It forgot why it existed in the first place." Claire stayed seated, envelope unopened. People had gathered, staff, patients, even passers-by, and then a man stepped forward. Walter Briggs, no cane, no limp. The infection had cleared. He didn't say a word, simply stood beside Claire. Hale looked at the trio, the nurse, the soldier, the general. After 23 years of enforcing hospital policy, he suddenly couldn't justify any of it. "I'm sorry," he finally said, his voice low as he faced Claire and Briggs. "I forgot what really matters." Claire stood, brushed her jeans. Clean. "So what happens now?" General Avery gave a small smile. "That depends on what's in that envelope." 2 weeks later, a plaque was placed near the ER entrance. It honored those who chose compassion over bureaucracy. Claire never gave any statements, but she returned not just as a nurse, but as the newly appointed Veteran Care Liaison, a role created just for her. Every Thursday, Walter stopped by, always with coffee, always placing a miniature flag at the reception. One afternoon, a young nurse whispered to a colleague, "Is that her? The one from the story?" Briggs' eyes still forward, replied quietly, "She's not a story. She's a reminder." Now, when veterans step into Northgate Medical, they're greeted by a message. Above the triage desk, "You are seen. You are not forgotten. Welcome home." Word spread quickly. Other hospitals began re-evaluating their rules. A state senator introduced legislation, the Claire Morgan Act, ensuring emergency care for veterans, regardless of their insurance status. 3 months after that morning in the lobby, Claire was back in the halls, her badge now bearing 2 seals, Northgate Medical and the Department of Veterans Affairs. This wasn't just for show. Hale had been transferred. 6 more hospitals had rolled out veteran-first protocols. Her new office used to be a cluttered storage room. Now, it had sunlight and constant visitors. Veterans, interns, curious staff. Claire wasn't just working inside the system anymore, she was changing it. The envelope Avery had handed her didn't just offer a job, it laid out a path, and she followed it, steadily, without needing fanfare then. For months after the day Briggs first hobbled into the ER, Claire found a package on her desk. Inside, her old hospital ID framed and a handwritten note. Some rules deserve to be broken. Thank you for knowing which ones. It wasn't signed, but she knew the handwriting well. That same day, a new resident came to her office. We've got a Marine in room 7, he said. No coverage. VA won't be here for hours. Protocol says we send him elsewhere. But, he's not stable. Claire looked at him kindly. And what does your instinct say? The young man paused. I think we treat him. She gave a nod. Then you've already made the right call. As she walked away, he called out, what if I get in trouble? She turned, calm and sure. Then I'll make the call to the general. If you believe quiet bravery still has a place in this world, honor the ones who choose principle over protocol. Because stories like this show us the true shape of courage.